Recording is on. All right, everybody. We'll wait just a couple more minutes since a couple people dropped on, and we'll get going here real soon. All right, everybody. I'm going to get going here. So first thing this morning, I made a little cheat sheet for this class. And if you're the note-taking type, I left some spaces in there for you to take notes. So if anybody wants to print that off, you can go ahead and do that. And what I'm going to start with this morning is actually something not specifically Excel related, but something that I've talked with a few people about here recently. So I think it's relevant. And that's just some keyboard shortcuts that are common from throughout Windows. So these apply to Excel, but they will also apply to any Windows program pretty much. And that's going to be these guys right here. So in almost any Windows program, if you want to print, you can hit Control P. So I'm going to do that. You can't see me, but I'm going to hit Control P. You can see the print dialog comes up. Within almost all programs, you can go Control N to do a new document, Control S to save that document, and then the one that I wanted to talk about that some people don't know is copy and paste. So I know we all know copy and paste, but there's a common keyboard shortcut for that, and it's Control C, Control V. So Control C for copy. Don't know why they Control V for P. I guess because print had already taken it. But that's a real common thing in basically any Windows program known to man. You can select text like this, and you can always right-click it and do cut and copy and paste. But you can also just Control C and Control V. So I just want to cover that real quick, something that a few people have asked me in the last couple of weeks that I talked in, so I just wanted to go over that real quick. And now we're going to get into the actual Excel training. Just going to check in real quick, and if somebody will just holler at me and make sure that you can hear me.
Hear you.
Yes, I'm nod.
Okay,
okay, just want to make sure. Okay, we're going to get going. Basically, this class is going to be a little bit different. I've done a lot of PowerPoints. I'm not doing a PowerPoint with this one because you're going to need to see most of this live in Excel for it to make sense. So it's going to be a little less organized than normal, but I think this would be a good way for everybody to learn. So got our little sheet here. I'm just going to go through it top to bottom, and this is going to cover the basics. Excel is the most advanced class that advanced program that we've covered thus far. You can do extremely advanced and complicated things in here. And so I could teach for a week on this, and I'm not even an Excel expert. So we're really just going to cover the basics today. And then kind of as with everything, if there's areas that you all really feel like we need to dive into, then we can do that later down the road. Okay, so let's get started. Some of the stuff that I'm going to teach here in the first little section here, you might have seen if you were in the Outlook class. We're going to talk about the file menu. File menu operates roughly the same in all Microsoft programs, so Word, Excel, Outlook, doesn't matter. There's a couple of things in here that are relevant to all programs, but also relevant to Excel. So down here, once you go into the file menu, unlike these other menus, file menu kind of opens up a different look. So you got this guy right here. And you've got the traditional open a new document, some recent documents that you've opened. But what I want to talk about is here an account. And there's a couple of relevant things in here. One is, this is right here is where you can see where your license is applied from. This is kind of an IT guy thing, but this is a thing that I do fairly often while I'm trying to figure out, if say your Word won't open up and we don't know why. Maybe your account got knocked off and that's why. So this is one thing to know. And then the other thing I wanted to point out is probably more relevant is this is where you set your theme options. So I'm a dark theme person, so I always go to the dark themes. But you can select those here. And they also have this office background. I'll show you what that affects. That essentially affects kind of like up in this area. So not super important, but if you are a light or dark preference person and you need to change that, right here is where you would go to do that. Okay, I'm going to close out this right here and open up Excel from scratch. I just opened Excel and basically creating a workbook. There's a couple different ways to do it, but this is the way that I do it, the way most people are going to do it. You're just going to open up Excel and it's going to default to blank workbook. So that would be the way that I would generally tell you to do it. Within places like PowerPoint, there's all these templates. Oops. You open Excel. You're going to see that here too. They have some templates. These are usually not very helpful in Excel. This is more like a PowerPoint or Word thing. But you do have some templates you can go in here and experiment with if you would like. And I want to quickly at this moment talk about something that's not directly related to Excel itself, but that you're going to come across. And that is the idea of the documents being at the end of .csv or an Excel format, meaning like .xls or .xlsx. And I just want to quickly talk about what does that mean. So Excel can open multiple different kinds of documents. It can open its native documents, its Excel documents, which are the XLS and the XLSX. It can also open CSV. CSV is just a column delineated format. And essentially what that means is it's just a generic format that can open in a lot of programs. So as Excel can really only open Excel documents can only really be opened by Excel. CSVs can be opened by tons of different programs. The primary way that this affects us is essentially Excel documents contain formatting and CSVs do not. So what I mean by that is if I've got my text here and I make it red and highlighted, in an Excel document, when I reopen this document, that's going to be saved. In a CSV document, it's only going to save the text and that's it. No formatting. So that's the basic thing to know. In many cases, it's not going to matter to you. You're just going to get a document, open it up, whatever it is fine. But I just wanted to quickly cover what exactly that difference is, because I know a lot of people go, wait, why are there different file types here? And I don't understand. So functionally, they normally operate about the same. The only real difference being Excel documents will have formatting information in them, whereas CSV documents will not. You're likely, when you export something from a website or something or another program, etc., to get a CSV, because the fact that it doesn't have formatting information in it means the data is more direct and there's just less chances that you're going to have issues getting the data. Okay, let me open up my Excel document here again. Okay, now we're going to talk about formatting. This is fairly similar to Word, PowerPoint, etc., but there are a few things unique to Excel. So within Excel, you're going to format things the same way you would in Word or anything else. It's all going to be up here in what they call the ribbon, which is all these guys right here. And primarily your home is where your actual kind of like traditional formatting things will be. Within Excel, you're going to have a couple of things that are different that you do, at least I do fairly often, which is essentially the cell itself can have different colors. So often you might want to shade a cell, and that's fairly straightforward. That's a lot like Word or whatever else. You just pick the color from the drop down, and it will apply as you request it. The thing that would be different within here is we have borders as well. So if I don't want to fill the inside of this, but I do want to fill the outside, that is this button right here called borders. 9 out of 10 times I'm coming in here and I'm going all borders. It just means, put a square around it and kind of see there. That now has every area around it. But you do have the option, should you need, to select which one. So if you wanted to do the top border only, you can see that there's a top border right there, but nothing around the bottom of the sides. So that's a function I've never really found all that useful to me. I'm always going all borders, but you can select those any way that you want. So just to go back real quick, if you want to put color in a cell, you go to this little guy, select the color. But if you want to do a border, you come to borders and select which one. Now within here as well, you're going to have, you can go to more borders, and this is where you can start to get into different shapes, different colors, widths, all that kind of stuff. generally 9 out of 10 times someone just wants black box around a box. So you just come select it, hit borders, hit all borders, and get your borders. So that's borders, that's shading. Now let's talk about column width. So you can, of course, always do just the click and drag. And this is what 9 out of 10 times anybody's going to need. But I wanted to show you a couple little things. So one thing to notice is as you're dragging, it is showing you the actual width itself. You can see those numbers changing. So if you want this for whatever reason to be 15, you can do that. I'm not going to mess with too much, but 15. Here's the other thing I wanted to show you. So often I will want multiple cells to be the same width for whatever reason. You can come in here and try to drag them out, make each one the same. But you can also select them, right-click, column width, and then just set it to whatever you want it to be. So say 15, applies to everything. This is the part of column width that I find most helpful. It's just from my OCD. If I want everything to be the same, rather than trying to go to each column and get it to where I need it to be, I can select multiple, pick whatever value it is that matters to me, hit OK, boom. Now I want to talk about another setting that is unique to Excel, but is really helpful within Excel. So I'm going to add a column, and we'll talk about how to do this later, but I'm going to add a column up here. And let's say this is my typical document, right? This actually is tickets, IT tickets. So I'm going to say this is IT tickets from January to March. Okay. All of that's living within that cell right there. You can see it kind of expands out, but it's all within the cell. Typically, I'm going to want this centered across the top, right? So in Excel, the way to do that is to select the cells over the area where you're talking about. And then they have a button just for this, Merge and Center, so right here. So whenever you hit Merge and Center, it's going to take all these cells, merge them into a single cell, and then take the text in that and center it. Boop, just like that. You see that all the lines went away because this is now one cell. We can also see it, let's just highlight it. You can see it's all one cell. In fact, I will do this. You can see that even easier. So that's all one cell. That text is within one cell. If I come over here, merge and center, boom. So that is something that's unique to Excel, very helpful. And then also, this is not super unique to Excel, but is very helpful within Excel, is right above that is the wrap text button. What it means by wrap text. So within here, in this box, we have more text than you can see within the box. So PCI compliance, Donnie, pending, blah, blah, blah. If you click here, where you select a cell that you want to see all the text, and click wrap text, it's going to basically make that cell fit the size of the text. So this is helpful and not helpful. It's helpful in the sense if your goal is to see all the text. Not great if your goal is to make everything super pretty formatted and looking the same. Because as you can see now, it's kind of rough in its look. So this is one of those tools where you just have to kind of see when to use it. In this case, if I didn't like that, an alternative would be just making these boxes wider so you can see all the text.
Yeah, and Mike, I think a quick note on that, you can double click that, separating bar between B and C, and it'll auto format.
Yes, good point. Didn't think to say that. So I'm clicking and dragging. But you do have the option. I'm just going to come right here on that line, double click, and then it will take whatever the largest text is and go ahead and step out to that level, which will then show you everything within there. Good call, Jay. Now, within, I kind of said I'd cover this, I'm going to cover it right now. Basically, inserting cells is pretty easy. You're generally just going to select where you want it, right-click, and insert. The only thing to know is that by default, Excel does insert above. So basically, if you're trying to get a box below here, then you're going to need to select this one, insert. Now, alternatively, if you just go to the insert menu, let's see here, insert, expand this out a little bit. Where is it? I'll come back to that, guys. Basically, there's a button somewhere where you can choose top or bottom. But if you just basically know that it's by default going to insert above. And then alternatively, if you're trying to insert a row, it's going to do it to the right. So basically above or to the right is what it's going to add by default. Okay, so let's talk about format. Now, we've been talking about formatting, and I meant that generally as in formatting text, color, etc. But within Excel, there's a specific thing called cell format, and that is this guy right here. So in the menu, they show it two different ways. They show some common options right here, and then they show a drop down with all the options. What this is essentially doing, and this is mostly a numbers thing in my experience, is giving you a way of making sure text always shows a certain way. So general is general, just meaning general text. But if I change this to say currency, then whatever I put in here is going to get a $ in front and the the .00 at the end, or the whatever change you put on it. You can see that if I come back in here and change this to 500, it's not going to be 500, it's going to be $500. Whereas if I change this to 500, it's just 500. There's all sorts of different ones here, and especially in date formatting, you can really get into like exactly what kind of date format, percentages, fractions, all these different things. The number one thing that I come here and use this for is the currency one, when I just want it to be money. That way I'm not having to come in here and type 500.00. It's just going to basically automatically do it every time. And then inversely, of course, if you want that to be not, you can do general. It's going to put it back to just regular old numbers. So you've got formatting in general, but if somebody says the format of a cell, they may be referring to this right here. Does that make sense to everybody? I know that's a little bit confusing, especially if somebody sent you a document. Well, they've set, so that would be another thing. If somebody sends you a document and you're trying to enter some text and then it's defaulting to a very weird format, could be a lot of things, but this would be the first place I go to and just be like, did they apply a weird, well, maybe not a weird, but a format to that box that's hitting you. Okay, so that's kind of the basics. A lot of that, like I said, applies to Word or any other program. Now let's start to talk about data itself and what you can do with it within Excel. This is quickly going to get to where you can just go down the rabbit hole. And every one of these things I can show you, there's like an advanced version to it. So if you've seen this and you're like, wait, it does a bunch of other stuff too, you are correct, it does. I'm just going to basically cover the basics today and try to explain a little bit about what these tools do. Okay, so I reopened my document here just to kind of reset everything, get all that stuff I had done. There's a number of things here. I'm going to go over some of them fairly quickly, but just to kind of discuss where these tools live should you need them. So one of the very first things that I'll get asked about is, and this is usually when somebody sends you like a data dump and you're trying to kind of get through it, is going to be getting rid of duplicates. It's fairly simple in the sense of doing it. So you open up your document, you go into the data tab, and they have a button. I'll expand this out a little bit. Right here called remove duplicates. As soon as you open this up, it's going to try to default by selecting your text, but you have the option to go in here and kind of tell it, this is what I care about. And then it's going to go through that data, simply look for duplicates and delete them. And here, you're not going to really see anything because there's not really any duplicate data there. There's a good thing and a bad thing about this tool. So the tool works extremely well. But because it works so well, there is a possibility here that you accidentally delete data you didn't mean to. There's not necessarily a quick and easy way around this. You have two options. If you've got a table or an Excel document with thousands and thousands of lines and you need to dedupe it, you probably just run this tool and it is what it is. If you've got something with maybe 100 lines and it's very important data, then you might have to go individually line by line and look for duplicates and delete them. Because again, this is going to kind of automatically do it, and it may delete stuff that's important to you. So 2 things about the find or the remove duplicate tool. That's where it is, and it works really well, but just know it may work so well that it might cause you problems. So that's kind of the thing to know about that. A better tool is the find and select tool. Many people might think of this as the find and replace tool. For a long time, Word and other programs called it find and replace. It's now called find and select, and within there is also the find and replace function. So let's go back to the front. So we're back on the Home tab, and within there, they have the find and select button. So you could do a few things in here. One is find and replace, typical find and replace. So let's say for some reason within this document, every time it says Michelle, it needs to say Mike for whatever reason. This is going to do the typical find Michelle, turn it to Mike. Oop, there it is. So now Michelle's are now Mike's. So for any reason you ever need to find something and replace it, that is essentially the way to do it. But there's another really special tool in here. I'm going to set this up a little bit. Which is if you go into find and select and you go to special, right here, go to special. And then within here, there's one called blanks. Okay, this is how you select blank rows. So now you've got blank rows selected, you can do all sorts of things like delete them and that kind of stuff. But basically, I just wanted to quickly show you that this is one of those things where there's about 100 ways to find blank rows within an Excel document. This is just one of them. So go to special, find blanks, and boom. You can also see that within here, you've got all these other options. So if for some reason any of these ever become helpful to you, that's where they are. But this is the one that I've always found helpful, is just to identify where the blanks in the document are. Okay. Now let's talk about sort and filter, which is right here next to find and select. Essentially, sort and filter, it's going to just do that, sort and filter. So let's come over here to ticket ID. These are already in order, so let's do something different. Let's do full name. Okay. So every time you click this, it's gonna by default either show you sort A to Z / reverse, or if you're selecting numbers, it'll show you it should show like smallest to largest essentially. Yeah, so smallest to largest. You can go in here and do a bunch of different sorting things. 9 out of 10 times, everybody just wants to get these things in order. So this is how you do it. So we'll just come here, sort A to Z. Now, when it asks you about expand the selection, you're going to say yes. And what that does is that resorts all of this as well, so that these are now in order, but also all of this changed too. So if you don't select that, it will resort the column, but it's going to leave all this alone, and now nothing's going to line up right. So generally, if you're doing a sort and filter, it didn't ask me again, but generally, you're just going to say yes to the include of data. There are specific times, let's say you want to only sort this column, that you would say no, but that's a pretty rare, like actual work need. You normally want to sort everything. Yeah, so this is, I put large and small in here, but it's basically going to say large to small if it's numbers, and A to Z if it's letters. Okay. Another tool. Okay, so I'm going to select this column right here, and you will see, let's see here. Yeah, okay. So within the insert here, even though this whole thing is a table, you have this button called Insert Table. So this is kind of a matrix table, right? A table within a table. So once you select this, there's one thing you got to know here, which is basically my table has headers. Headers just means titles. So in this case, yep, sure does. We've got titles, so I'll leave that selected. What it does at that point is it essentially creates this little table within a table. The reason that you might need this, and you probably have seen this in an Excel document someone sent you, is you now get this drop down. So that allows you to search within there, select things, deselect things, all of that kind of stuff. It also gives you that sort thing right here. So again, I just wanted to point out, if you've seen this in an Excel document, like, how do I do that? How do I get that drop down? This would be how. And you can do it on each column. You can do it on just some of the columns. So this might be an example of like what kind of is helpful. So in this case, ticket type. So like this would be like when you guys ask a question. This would be when you request something, and then the incident is like when something breaks. This would be an example of like if I just wanted to see like questions. You know, I could come in here this way and just see the questions, but the data is still there. So now I can come back, and I didn't delete anything. Boom. So not a big deal here, but if I've got, 3,000 lines of data and I'm just trying to get to the questions, that would be one way of doing it. Okay. Another way to handle this that is similar, so I'm going to select this column, and you see, like before, as I'm selecting it, this little guy right down here pops up. This is called quick analysis. There's also analyze data, or you can, as it says right here, you can just hit Control Q. What I wanted to point out here, and I'm going to select, I'm going to close this out and reopen it to get back to a blank document. Okay. So let's talk quick analysis. So I had shown you that a way of kind of managing this data is to come in here and insert a table, right? And then we can do all fun stuff. Another way is to select the data, come over here, and then you're going to start to get a variety of things. So if all you're trying to do is visually format the data, there's a lot of great formatting things right here. So like this right here with the icons, it's basically showing you is the number going up, down, staying. This is like a shading way of looking at it. So you got just different options here that you can click through and play with. But what I really want to show you is charts and tables. So again, a million ways to do this, but this is one of the quickest and easiest ways. So come over here to charts, and you've got your charts. And what I like about this is you don't have to remember what these charts look like is a scatter look this way or a line look that way. You just go over these, and these are live charts. This is what the chart would look like when you hit go. Same with tables. So you've got these different tables. And also same with totals. So you can grab different things here. So basically what I want to show you primarily here is the charts. I find this to be one of the best places to do quick charts. So if somebody is, let's say these are totals of how many 8-inch corners we sold at various times or whatever, and we need to graph that out real quick. You can come here quickly, boom. I like the way that one looks, boom, there it is. So you've got that within Excel. The other thing to know is you can just also copy this whole thing. We'll open up Word real quick and just do a simple paste, and boom. Oop. That's probably how I use it the most, is I'll generate a chart over here in Excel and then drop it in Word or PowerPoint or something like that where it's a little bit easier to digest. And you can do that with all kinds of things. So like, let's do, again, we could do this. I don't like it because it's words, but let's do this again. So say I want a scatter chart this time, boom, there's a scatter chart. So as with all this stuff, you can always do this a different way. You can go into the data, and within here, there's all sorts of charting stuff. I just find this to be kind of like the easy and quick way because you're already there at the data. The button essentially pops up, and then I also love the fact that you get these live previews, especially with the charts, because often you're trying to decide which one best communicates this data. So that's just a real easy way of knowing that. Okay. The last part of this is kind of the advanced part of this. So before I go into that, I'm just going to check in real quick. Everybody still hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. All right. I'm going to quickly go into formulas. Okay. This is getting into the part of Excel where very quickly we can go down a rabbit hole. So I'm just going to talk about the most common formulas. First of all, formulas live right up in here. So it's always going to default to the auto sum, meaning addition. But you've got to drop down here. And then you've also got right below it also the clear button. So I'm just going to show you real quick. If you want to get rid of text, but you don't want to delete the cells, there's a clear button. And that clears that stuff out. Okay. So formulas are where you do math in Excel, or one place that you do math in Excel. And you're going to see here that there are a million different formulas, but I feel like these are the common ones and also the ones you normally need. So auto sum is that. It's just going to addition. You can either select text, or it will normally kind of look and see what's above and try to guess for you. So I can hit auto sum. You can see it selects the area. I'm like, yeah, that's what I want to add. I just hit enter, and there's my answer. Alternatively, if I wanted to do, say, an average, so take these numbers and average them out. Again, it selects. I go, yep, those are the right cells. There's your average. You can also do just direct things. So like if you want to know what the top value is within this set of values, or the minimum, right? So lots of different things you can do here. You're going to see as you go into more that, in fact, that's not even a good example. There are literally thousands and thousands of these equations that you can put within Excel. And you'll see that while we're presenting a number here, what is actually happening on the backside, this is the math right here. So you can see that one is trying to do a sum. That one's trying to do an average. That one's looking for the max, etc. So just a note there that this is where functions live, is right here in this little guy. Sum, average, max, min, these are kind of your most common ones. There's also number count in here. And what that means is essentially how many entries are there. So there's 10 entries. The lowest one's 262. The highest one's 302. They average out to 292, and they total 2,924. So that's a quick way of taking a set of data and getting most the kind of information that you would want to know about that data. And again, you can go in here and start to find all sorts of crazy stuff. But these seems to be the one that most people need most of the time, just your basic averages and that kind of stuff. Let's see here. Okay, we're almost done, and we'll cover a couple more things here. I meant to cover this at the top, so I'm just going to cover it real quick, and that's about the tabs. So a little note on verbiage. Excel calls the whole document a worksheet or a workbook, and then they call these tabs tabs. And much like within Premiere or something like that, you can, your internet, you can right-click them, and you can close them, you can rename them, you can duplicate them, etc. Now I have a copy of it. If I want to move them around, you can click and drag them. And if you just want a whole blank one, you can just hit deposit it. So that's kind of how Excel handles tabs. It's almost identical to like Internet Explorer, Firefox, Chrome, etc. Very similar. Right-click them, you can delete them, etc. Okay. Last thing we're going to talk about here real quick is just some basic printing stuff. Printing is like any other program, but I wanted to show you guys that within here is a built-in Save as Adobe PDF. So again, especially with Excel documents, you should probably always take a moment and think about when you're sending it to somebody whether they need to edit the data or not, right? So if they need to edit the data, send them the Excel document. But if what you're trying to do is communicate data and make sure that they can't change it, where they then get the wrong info, etc., then an easy way in any program, but included in Excel, to do that is just to make a PDF so they can see the data, but can't change it. So you can just go to Save as PDF. It's going to ask you, which sheets, etc., that kind of stuff, and it will just automatically create a PDF. Desktop. And there's our PDF. So really helpful feature, especially if you don't have a lot of data here and you just want to send to somebody, you want to make sure they can't mess it up. If you throw it in a PDF, they're still going to be able, within a PDF, to copy and paste. So they can get to the live data, they just can't edit it at all within the document, which I'm guessing, especially for like ops, that could be helpful where you're trying to send something to somebody and that way they can't say, hey, you said blah, blah, blah. And you can be like, nope, this is what I sent you. Okay, everybody, that kind of covers the basics of Excel. Like I said, this is one of those programs where you can just pretty much go as deep into the hole as you want. But that kind of covers the basics. And at this point, I'm just going to open it up if anybody has any questions, or also if anybody has recommendations for some areas of Excel we need to dive deeper into later. All right, speak now, forever hold your peace.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I think that's pretty good. Maybe sometime we can, well, if anybody wants to have us walk through actually doing it. The thing with Excel for me, it always looks so easy watching people do it, and then I get in front of it and don't remember what the hell I'm doing. So
I would say that's part of why I did this one, not PowerPoint, because I really thought everybody needed to see me using it. I feel like on that kind of stuff, it's hard to teach group-wise, but I understand what you're saying. So what I would say is I'm also always available to do training sessions. So just like if you have a problem and you send a ticket in, I'm totally fine with anybody sending a ticket in that's just, I need an hour to learn about X. Just, in fact, the best way to do it is to send it in as a ticket. That way I can kind of schedule it around everything like I do tickets. But if you have something, a program, or really anything tech related that you're struggling with or want to know more about, and you want some one-on-one time, I'm always happy to do that with anybody. So just let me know and we can get into those things. Any other questions today, guys? Okay, I'm gonna wrap it up, but I know that, again, I know Excel is a complicated program. Got a lot going on. So I'm sure that there are questions, and if you have them, just reach out to me individually. I'm happy to teach. I'm not an Excel expert. People like Brian know a lot more than I do. I would guess that Steven knows things about Excel that I don't know. But I'm happy to help you figure it out, especially the basic stuff. And we can always, if I don't know it, I can learn it and then I can teach it. All right, guys. Well, that's going to be it for Excel 101. And I hope you guys have a good Friday. And if you have any other questions, you just reach out to me. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Good weekend, everyone.